you do. And again, a plug for thank you for all you do for supporting East Millennial Choirs, a
Yeah.
wonderful youth choir in Arizona. The time is now yours. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you. Uh, I because there are people that maybe don't understand our faith. I want to start with this. Um, our faith believes in the freedom of speech. Our faith believes in the freedom of religion. Our faith, when Brigham Young and the Saints were chased out of the country, they ended up in a faraway place that wasn't even part of America at the time, and that was Utah. And one of the first things they did was hold a parade with the Declaration of Independence and the Bill of Rights. I don't know who was there to watch it, and there weren't any streets or anything else, but it was to drive home the message that people can go wrong, but the principles of our country are true. That doesn't mean we always live up to them. I and many others on the phone are constitutional conservatives. We don't want a theocracy or anything else. We want the Bill of Rights that have been enshrined and built our country. That's all we want. Um, and I want to start now with people who are of my faith as well. Do you remember when the Family Proclamation first came out in the 90s? Do you remember how we all thought, what is this? Why would they? Duh, this is all obvious. Gender is ordained by God. Of course. The family is at the center of the universe. Of course, there are different kinds of families, et cetera, but that is the cornerstone of everything. Everything is built on that. Those were all very obvious to us. They obviously saw what was coming. They obviously, our leaders of our church saw this. The same thing is with the Book of Mormon. I I am a 25-year Mormon, coming up on our 25th. In fact, I think next month, 25th year of being a member of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. Um, I didn't know what they believed in. One of the things that really caught my eye that was so different than anything else was the understanding of our rights and the understanding of the role of this country in allowing another religion that was completely different than the others um, to actually be born. And yes, we were chased out and we're not real popular even now, but we have the right to be who we are and to celebrate God the way we want to and see him the way we do. And and do that without denigrating anybody else's faith or non-faith. So with that as a framework, let me just go over a couple of things because we are living in the times, I believe, that have been foretold by ancient prophets and modern day prophets. I believe if you read the Book of Mormon, it reads like a newspaper today. And we are entering the most dangerous places. Evil has been made good, and good has been made evil. Everything that is beautiful has been made ugly. That which is sacred has been degraded. We didn't just chase God out of the public square. We dragged him back, tied him to a pillar where we whip and mock and ridicule God almost every day. That's not going to end well. You know it, and I know it. We are mocking his own creation. I want to go over a few things because one of my topics is freedom of speech. But everything that you have heard, everything that you have heard, this is a very long con. Um, everything in the last 20 years has been a conspiracy theory. And let me be specific on a couple of things. We were told that they're not indoctrinating our children with CRT. They're not indoctrinating our children with DEI. Those are conspiracy theories. That's what it was first, conspiracy theories. Then it was a misunderstanding of what they are. We know what those things are. Turns out that they're true, not conspiracy theories. They openly tell us that our children should be able to speak to the teacher or the schools in secret, that they can actually have a conversation with our children and help them make a decision that most of us would disagree with, especially if we believe in the Family Proclamation, and that is gender is ordained by God at birth. We've believed that before any of this nonsense started. You can talk to my children in secret. That makes you a predator. I'm not saying a sexual predator, but a predator nonetheless. You are a predator to my family and my children. You are putting them in danger. There was a story I read just the other day. By 2030, and I can't remember what it is, it's 30 or 50% of women in America will be single and childless. By 2030, we are destroying the family. We are destroying men. We already destroyed men. Now they're setting out a course to make men women. And I don't mean like kind of more sensitive men. I mean women. We know that is not true. And yet so many of us tolerate this. They're tearing our communities apart, our safety for our families apart. When BLM happened, remember, it was Kamala Harris that actually came out and bailed people out and said that these riots should continue, and they will continue. But, you know, the fact that they had on their own website, Black Lives Matter, one of their goals was to, and I quote, destroy the nuclear family. That was a conspiracy until it was proven by showing it on their own website. But how many people even know that that was on their website? How many people know the truth of all of these things? How about this? We've just been told that the border is not out of control. In fact, it's better than it's ever been. And Donald Trump was mocked for saying that they're sending us their worst. They're opening up their prisons. Do you remember how many people rolled their eyes when they heard that? What do we know now? We know that Venezuela, for one, which is in concert with Hezbollah and Iran, are not only taking their worst gangs, but training their worst gangs to be worse than they already were, and then bringing them over to Iran, and then they come across our border. That was, of course, a conspiracy theory that Donald Trump was mocked. We now know it is absolutely true. How about FEMA taking the money, their money, FEMA's money, and spending millions and millions and millions of dollars paying for the hotels? We all asked ourselves, who's paying for these hotels? Well, that was a conspiracy theory that FEMA was doing that. It's a conspiracy theory that, as Mike Lee will tell you, it was in one of the first bills they passed. They knew this was coming, and they funneled the money in the first bill they passed. What was it? The American Recovery Act. It's all in there. But when it was exposed, it was a conspiracy theory. When we showed you that FEMA, I was on the ground. I saw it with my own eyes. When we told you that FEMA wasn't there, they weren't doing their job. They didn't show up for 8 days. That too was a conspiracy theory. How about this? They want to take your guns. No, that's a conspiracy theory, even though they have stated these things. After reimagining the police, remember, Kamala Harris was one of the leaders of reimagining the police and changing the way we policed. She was against bail, just let people out. Well, we're doing that. So they've put our families in danger, called us bigots if we didn't agree with it. And then on top of that, they want to take your guns when your family has to defend itself because the police in a lot of big cities don't show up anymore. It sounds to me like somebody's not on our side. But again, that's a conspiracy theory, just like it is that they're putting inappropriate children's books into our school, which we know they are because parents have come to the school board meetings and tried to read them out loud and been told this is inappropriate in a public meeting. Then why are you assigning this to my children? That's a conspiracy theory, but it's not. Of course, it was also a conspiracy theory that the FBI was targeting the parents, was targeting the Catholics, was targeting the parents that would stand up as terrorists. That was a conspiracy theory until it wasn't. Vaccines, you shouldn't take the vaccine. None of this is based in science. That, of course, was a conspiracy theory until it wasn't. The abortion in the third trimester, very few people, I think it's like 8% of people are for a third trimester abortion. Okay, we might disagree early on, but nobody disagrees when it comes to the third trimester, and certainly not about partial birth abortion or trying to kill the baby as it's in the birth canal. And then, of course, no one wants to see a baby left to die that actually survives that nightmare. Kamala Harris will tell you that's a conspiracy theory. It is not. It is part of their plan and policies. It's happened in Tim Walz's state. He knows all about it, but he won't talk about it. So, what do we have? These are all lies. All of the conspiracy theory, those were all lies. What the people like Donald Trump told you end up to be true. I don't know if the media has even covered that Friday, the Supreme Court of New York overturned the judgment against Donald Trump. Why? Because the Supreme Court was disgusted by it. They kept questioning Letitia James, saying, where do you find this law? Where are you finding these things? Because we can't find it anywhere. It's never been done before in America. It ended with her practically pleading with the court, please don't overturn this or you'll get away with it. Get away with what exactly? We are sitting here being told for the last 15 years, all of these things that are happening are conspiracy theories, that we're a liar, that we are making things up, that it's mis and disinformation. In the last couple of weeks, you've had John Kerry, Hillary Clinton twice, in one of the most spooky statements I've ever heard, came from Kamala Harris on making sure that those voices that are engaged in mis and disinformation are silenced. So you know, she doesn't mean 60 Minutes, who looks like they were involved in campaign interference. I hope that's not true, but they won't release any of the transcripts. They always release those. Why did they do a 40-minute interview with Donald Trump and then not say at the end of their 20-minute interview, which had about 12 minutes of the actual interview in it, why didn't they say you can watch the full interview at 60minutes.com? They always do that. Now, maybe it's completely innocent, but they're sure acting like it's not innocent. Nobody is talking about getting rid of them. Nobody's talking about silencing them. And I'm certainly not talking about that. I know the Constitution and freedom of speech. The speech that must be protected is the speech we find abhorrent. It's why I have stood up for people that I don't really even like and campaigned so they would have their job back or they would be able to gain their voice back. These are far leftist people. Bill Maher was the first one. We believe in freedom of speech, the freedom of thought, the freedom of religion, the freedom of press, the freedom to petition. We have the freedom to ask our government, can you explain yourself? But they never do. We have the freedom of assembly. All of these freedoms are going away, as well as the Second Amendment. I started with, I'm about to hit my 25th anniversary of being a Mormon. What attracted me to this faith was I wanted to be like the people. I wasn't a very nice guy. I was an alcoholic and I had a lot to learn and a lot to thank God for the atonement for. But one of the other things that I liked is this faith understood the sacred nature of our documents. They taught it forever. We don't teach it as much anymore. But we still can read Ezra Taft Benson. We can still go back and look at all of the documents produced by our church, talking about how sacred these documents and these rights are. We don't do it enough. The other thing is, I was told over and over and over again that the Book of Mormon is true. The Book of Mormon is a pattern that shows what will happen to people at this time in the latter days. What will happen? What are the signs you're supposed to look for? I don't know if it's because too many people have been raised on this religion and they've just always heard it, but you should reread the Book of Mormon because it's telling us exactly what time it is. The Constitution is hanging by a thread. You know who gets that? Some Democrats. Elon Musk gets that. Tulsi Gabbard gets that. RFK Jr., an icon of the Democratic Party, says this party is dangerous. I have to stand with Donald Trump. They get that. Why don't we get that? We have been given so much more than anybody else. What is wrong with us? I would like to leave you with a challenge. Go find one person that's on the fence. Go find one person of our faith that does not just, I can't vote for Donald Trump because of XYZ. If it's because of who he is as a man or what he's done with his, divorces and everything else, if you want to know what Donald Trump thinks about women, ask his daughters. His daughters are strong, decent, honorable people that love their father. I have to tell you, if I could have the success that that man has had with his family and his daughters in a broken marriage where he still co-parented with his ex-wife, that's miraculous. I would urge you to pray on the fact that we are the church of Latter-day Saints. What time is it? And if you say, I can't vote, I'm wearing this t-shirt from Bonhoeffer. Not to act is to act. Not to stand is to stand. Not to speak is to speak. Your vote, even if it's happening in place where you're like, well, it's all going to go to the Democrats or it's all going to go to the Republicans, your vote counts. You know where it counts? In the eternities. We are all going to be held responsible, especially us, with additional information. We are going to be held responsible. What did you do when the freedom of not just your children and your grandchildren, but the children all over the world was at stake? What was it you couldn't get past? What was it you ignored? This is the time, and this is the time that we are to rise up as God-fearing people with our voices and our votes. Get one person off the fence and bring them to the polls. I leave this with you in the name of Jesus Christ. Thank you.